are. You taste all the sauces, right? So let's take a look. Okay, this is how easy it is. So I've made some pasta already in advance, according to the package directions. So I like to do a whole wheat pasta. The reason why is because normally in a pesto, you're going to have pine nuts or toasted walnut, but instead I'm counting on the nuttiness in the pasta to be our nut flavor, if that makes sense. Plus, less calories, less fat by not using the nuts. If you want to treat yourself, you can do some toasted nuts on top at the end. That's perfectly fine. And then the next step, step 2, is really just combining everything in a blender or a food processor. Okay? Most everything. Essentially the rest of the ingredients in the first column you see here. So let's take a look. We have fresh basil. So here's the fresh basil that I rinsed up at home. Open this up. And you'll just notice in the recipe that I try to use ingredients, so we're using the whole pack of tofu, the whole thing of basil, so you're not having like a half cup of basil sitting around wilting in the pantry for, after you're done with this recipe. So as far as basil goes, I really just pull them off the stems. I don't have to do a lot of chopping here, so that I get, essentially 2 cups loosely packed. I just love basil flavor. If you want to just pass that around so everyone can have a smell. If anything, rub it between your fingers and give it a smell, and that will really give you a good indicator of what we are trying to capture. Because sometimes the smell doesn't really come out until it's been bruised, until you rub it in your fingers, and then you'll know that it's there. Okay, so as far as the tofu goes, I use a light, firm tofu. I really rarely use any kind of tofu that is, I guess, silken, or like, what am I trying to say? Not firm, but there's like a soft tofu. I don't really have a lot of uses for that one, quite frankly. One thing that scares people about using tofu is that it can be hard to handle. Like whenever you see a dish that's tofu with sauce on it, where it's the main protein, it just doesn't sound very fun. And if you read any of the vegetarian magazines or cookbooks, you have to drain it, you have to pat it dry, you have to do all of these things. So I try to find simple ways to use tofu, which is what we're doing tonight. So we've got basil, about 2 cups. Now this here is a little toy that someone gave to me a couple days ago. Not my husband, but someone gave it to us a couple days ago for a wedding gift, believe it or not. This is called a Vitamix, but you don't have to have a Vitamix at home. It's a think of it as a super duper powered blender. 240, is it 24,000 RPMs per minute, something like that. It's wild. So hopefully we don't blow the roof off here. But we have some basil in there. Again, you can use a food processor. That's perfectly fine. Sometimes I use a little mini prep. If you have one of those little mini prep machines, that's fine too. Okay, so 14 ounces of light, firm silicon tofu. So we just open the package. And in this case, we don't have to pat it dry because we actually want the moisture to give moisture to the sauce. So, just drain off the liquid. So, the excess liquid. Okay. And then I will take the tofu, as scary as it is, straight away.
What is tofu?
Tofu is really soy. That's really all it is. Think of like things like edamame, soy milk. It's all the same kind of thing. It's just compacted so it is a protein on its own. Now, the trick with tofu that most people don't know is that to really get all the health benefits of tofu, you actually have to eat it with a whole grain. It's sort of an incomplete protein if you don't. If you just eat blocks of tofu, you're not getting all the benefit, which is why I put it with a whole wheat pasta. So we get all the nutrients in one bite. Okay, so we have tofu, a little salt and pepper. Let's see, we've got a little bit of pepper here, which you would expect, and a little bit of salt here. Yep, and then olive oil. All pastas have to have a little bit of olive oil. Now notice here I use this, which is a little plastic bottle you can find at the beauty store when they color hair, but this is food safe. And what's nice is that there's actually tablespoons on the edge here, so you know how many ounces you're using all the time, as opposed to olive oil cans that you kind of lug along, okay? So I know when I squeeze, I know how much is going on, believe it or not, because I've done this a couple times. Okay, so it's a couple tablespoons of olive oil, and what else? Parmesan cheese and some garlic. So a little Parmesan, I'll put it there, and garlic. So here's my head of garlic. What I'm going to do is crack off a couple of cloves here. This is a pretty big head of garlic, my goodness. So, and the thing about it is that people say, well, this is a very complete meal, but where's my protein? And they don't know that it's the tofu that's in here, you know. But if you really wanted to, you could put in some grilled chicken or something. You know, you think about it. I mean, this is very flexible, so you can add a lot of things in here. So for all of this pasta that was made, if this whole thing is 8 servings, I have the stats down here, okay? For 8 servings of this giant thing, each serving is 250 calories. That's it, okay? 35 grams of carbs from the pasta. Fat is like 6.5 grams, but only 1.8 grams of saturated fat. 14 grams of protein, because it comes from the pasta and the tofu. So surprise, it's just like you had chicken in here. And you have almost 5 grams of fiber in this, in the pasta itself. So it's a very, very complete meal. It's about the same calories as a Milky Way bar for a whole serving. So, you know, why not, right? And then with the tomato salad has a nice little acid to it, so it kind of helps balance the creaminess in here, the acid of the tomato salad. You're getting tons of vegetables between both of them. The salad, the recipe that I did was 4 servings, but divide this by 4, it's only, what, 75 calories? That's it, if we divided it by 4. So that's a lot of vegetable and stuff for 75 calories. See? So if anything, all the things that we did here, you can see how flexible it is, how you can take this tofu base and use it for other sauces, for other things, you know, other vegetables. Again, other herbs, whatever you've got. Everything here is meant to use, you know, whatever you've got in the fridge to make it work. What brand did I use? Let me see. Well, it is called, it's a firm silken tofu. Where did that box go? Did I toss the box already? It's really, you can really use any brand. Like I even use a Whole Foods brand. The important thing is it's the one that's found in a refrigerated section. So it will either be in the produce section or it will be in where you have cheeses, you know, that type of thing. They also have a dry tofu that's in a box that they call sometimes. I don't really use that one so much. This is better because it's a little more tender. It's definitely a little bit more tender.
So when you buy it, does it say one?
It will say firm tofu.
And
it will say light firm tofu.
Do they sell in like flavors? And this was plain.
This is plain.
I've never bought tofu. So
okay, no,
is it plain?
Yes, it's plain. It's not seasoned.
Do they sell it seasoned?
They do
so
sell tofu seasoned. Just like they sell seitan seasoned, but a lot of those pre-seasonings are very similar to the seasonings that you see with a pre-seasoned pork tenderloin, which equals lots of salt and things, right, to make it flavorful. So get the plain tofu. It'll say light, firm tofu. Again, it'll be where you have like cottage cheese, cream cheese, and if it's not in that section, it'll be in the produce section for some reason.
I've seen it in the Acme over by the cucumbers.
Okay, yes.
Over
there you go.
Right, that section.
That's it. You just want to drain off the liquid and then use it.
What are some of the other uses
for tofu? Well, here's the thing. The other way that I like using tofu, because when you read recipes, it says, step 1, take out your block of tofu. Step 2, cut it into slabs. Step 3, dry it off with paper towels. Step 4, put some weight on it so all the liquid comes out. By the time that's over, a week has gone by, and I'm very, very frustrated because I don't like waiting like that. However, I did find one trick from a vegetarian friend, and it does work well. We tried it. I take a block of tofu home, and I actually cut it into cubes, like 1-inch cubes. And then I take those 1-inch cubes, I throw it in a plastic bag, and I throw it in the freezer. I know it sounds a little strange, but what it does is it actually helps draw the moisture. Because this is what happens. I'll finish the story. Cut it into cubes, put it in a plastic bag, toss it in the freezer. Just like you would with frozen chicken, right? Okay, let's say the next day or 3 days, I'm like, I want to have tofu something or other. He says, I want tofu, not in the juicer, but I want tofu. So I take it out of the freezer and I defrost it in the fridge like you would do with chicken, right? But here's the thing, that freezing process actually makes the tofu firmer. So it's actually more substantial tasting, and so people that hate tofu, like, you know, there's something about eating a protein that's like a panna cotta, you know, that just doesn't seem quite right. What it does, this freezing and thawing, actually helps draw moisture because the ice crystals in the tofu freeze up okay, in the freezer. And then when you put it in the refrigerator, it all melts away very quickly. So if anything, it makes that tofu taste heartier flavor. And then from there, you can use it like stir fries, anything like you would normally use cut up chicken in. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's one of the ways that I highly recommend trying that. Just take a block of tofu, chop it up into some chunks, throw it into a bag like it's chopped up chicken breast, freeze it, thaw it a couple days later when you're ready to think about it, and then try using it like you would normally with chicken, whether it's a stir fry or something like that. And it will have a heartier taste than all that paper towel drying and cutting it into slabs and all that stuff. Okay, you'll get a better result because I want you to like tofu.